Okay, I'm going to offer some thoughts on the challenges of the Western educational systems. Western, as I usually define it, refers to European, North American, Australian, and New Zealander educational systems. I claim to have some knowledge of them, even inside knowledge, having served as a substitute teacher in Finland, my native land, for about 9 years, and having, of course, studied there for various years. I mean, from 1979 to 1987, and again from 1993 to 2000, and then for brief periods between 2002 and 2004. And then I tried to get I handed in one essay which perhaps was never accepted in 2009. I tried to get another one done later in 2009. Anyway, one major challenge is in the teacher's authority. Until the 1960s or perhaps 1970s, generally speaking, in the Western countries, teachers had quite a solid authority, especially if they were pedagogically qualified and experienced and competent. Nowadays, this is no longer necessarily the case. Of course, there are a number of positive exceptions to this rule, but it seems that increasingly the teachers have to prove or reprove their competence and the fact that they really care about their students, even when the students or pupils misbehave, as unfortunately often is the case at elementary and junior high schools, and it's not absent even at the higher levels of education, at least not fully, according to my experiences. Of course, to adjust their teaching to the kinds of activities and to the kind of language that the students can understand or relate to without descending to the level of obscenities, for example. To ask for feedback, honest but also constructive feedback. So the students or pupils will not just say what is wrong, in their opinion, in the teacher's teaching methods and the exercises and activities that he or she gives to them, but how it could be improved, how things could be improved. It is good that there are so-called multi-form learning modules and courses where people can study, students can study on the internet, they can sometimes attend lessons or lectures, they can write essays, of course, and other written assignments. The so-called wired learning or cyber learning has taken great strides in this century, especially in the many Western countries, and it's not unknown even outside the Western countries, especially those Latin American, African, and Asian countries which are relatively prosperous and influenced by the Western also educational cultures. It's becoming, I think, increasingly a reality. But of course, how to create the so-called class spirit or school spirit, a sense of belonging, sense of togetherness, if increasingly students study in separate locations and are only connected via the electronic media. That's another challenge. Of course, third challenge is a moral and ethical one. How to teach in the largely and possibly increasingly pluralized societies of the Western countries, the students a sufficient sense of right and wrong, good and bad things, that they are not just societal constructions as the popular liberal leftist and postmodernist agenda claims, but there are actually things which are absolutely right and absolutely wrong. And then, closely related to this challenge, how to bring God back into the educational system. Of course, we cannot Christianize fully Christianize the educational system, at least not this side of the millennial kingdom, when Jesus Christ will rule the earth with his saints visibly for 1,000 years. But we should not ignore God either. And these recent cases, tragic cases, where some usually emotionally troubled students have killed fellow students, in some cases even teachers, at the very least wounded them, could have been prevented if there had been enough truly Bible-believing and wholeheartedly committed Christians there. If, for example, those troubled students had received loving and caring and patient, at the same time also, and merciful and forgiving, at the same time also honest and righteous Christian counseling, and testimonies of how God has changed deeply troubled lives, how a notable number of current teachers and especially students used to be out of control, used to be alcoholics or drug addicts, or anyway people who lived hedonistically only for themselves, and how their lives turned around when Jesus Christ became their Savior and Lord. And then, of course, a challenge which the Western schools are meeting quite well. Those students, children and teenagers, even in some cases young adults who need special care and attention. In plain English, some form of special education and guidance. How to accommodate their needs while at the same time accommodating the needs of those students who have normal learning abilities. They usually constitute a clear, if not a great majority of the students, and then those who are at the top as far as learning abilities, learning and processing and analytical abilities and concentration abilities are concerned. That's a challenge. More teachers should be hired, but also more so-called general education teachers should have enough special education pedagogical skills. And then, of course, the challenge of multiculturalism. It's not by itself a bad thing. However, in multicultural, even at multicultural schools, we have to teach the students clear values. Yes, there are many different cultural values, societal values, religious, ethical, moral values, but of course they cannot all be right, or we would live in a chaotic society or at a chaotic school. And of course, learning the majority language while retaining a sufficiently clear knowledge of one's own language is another challenge. And then the interpretation involved during lessons and lectures, or at least getting summaries of those lessons or lectures either in the student's native language or a third language that the student understands well enough to follow the lessons. And then, of course, we have the increasing need to accommodate different groups' interpretations of, for example, what has happened in the past and what is happening now. Important especially for the teachers of history, social sciences, ethics, and even religion. So that's a major challenge as well. None of these challenges, however, is insurmountable, and of course then one major challenge in countries like Finland: how to accommodate those students who clearly have trouble obeying authorities, like parents at home and teachers and other staff members at school, and then of course those students whose parents believe virtually all the stories that they tell. There are a few percent of such students and parents in countries like Finland. How to create an atmosphere of mutual trust where neither are the teachers or other school staff members wrongfully accused of using mental or physical violence or both kinds of violence against the students while disciplining them, nor are the students wrongfully accused of willfully breaking the school's rules and endangering the school's safety. Those are difficult issues as well. I hope and pray that the lawsuits against teachers, especially those that have no basis in fact but only the students and their parents' claims, unsubstantiated claims, would decrease and become non-existent. And of course, those lawsuits where indeed the teachers have engaged in either physical or sexual or emotional abuse, they could also radically be decreased and become eventually non-existent. Of course, this would require many people, both among the teachers and other school staff members and among the students and their parents, to turn to God for deliverance and cleansing and salvation and a new life.